Let's talk about how to split face in Alibre. So in this case, right, we have a split face where we are not adding or removing material. We are simply splitting the face to show text. This is important when you're doing something like a finite element analysis or computational fluid dynamics. These kinds of things would be very bad to do a cut or a wrap or a project or something like that, because even when we take away minuscule amounts of material, it can throw off the meshing kind of significantly. So we want to have a split face for something like that. We also might want to have a split face for something like displaying text on the side of our model. Maybe I want a warning label or different colors. And split face can do all of that for us. How do we do it in Alibre though? Because there's not a dedicated split face feature. This is where we can go to Pro or Expert and use some of the features to be able to split faces anyway. So let's jump into a new part and get into it. All right, so here is a new part, and I have a very curvy, NURBSy surface. That's probably one of the harder faces to split, and so we'll go with that. Now this could be several faces, or it can be one face. Either way, we would use the same procedure. So the first thing I want to do is take the face or faces that I want to split. We'll go to Surface and create a surface from that face. Of course, a surface is a purely reference thing, kind of like a plane, and we're just using this surface as a reference for some of our future operations. I'm going to create a plane that goes above my part. So we'll go to Model and Plane, and it doesn't really matter how much higher the plane is from the part. We just want it above the part. Now from here, I'll sketch on this plane and I'll add whatever I would like to split. In this case, I'll make text that I would like to split into my surface. So I'll simply say face split. We'll turn that sideways. Wow, that's a good fit right there. And now I want to project this onto my part. So we're not going to wrap. Project really is what we want here. So we're going to select project. And just like that, we were able to project our face split text. From here, I'll go into my surfaces and I'll take my surface and rename it just so I can keep track of my surfaces. And I'll say something like, right, so that'd be my surface split reference. And then I'll go into my faces and I want to delete the faces that I just projected. Now what we'll do is if I start at the bottom, I can see that here are the first few faces that I have. And then right there is the first face that I've used for my project, right? And so all these other faces are new from the project. And so I can hold Shift and click, and I've selected all of those faces that are involved with my project operation. So we'll go to Surface with all these faces selected, and we'll choose Delete Face. Now from here, we'll say OK, and I can hide my surface split reference, and there is my face split text. Now we'll notice we still have that surface inside of our P and inside of our E, right? This kind of island. So if we're missing those surfaces on your end, be sure to redo this or manually select faces or whatever you got to do to make sure that you keep these little islands here. So with this being done, now I will make another sketch on this top plane, and we'll simply project to our sketch the same text that we just had with our text here. So we'll say OK to that, and we've recreated that that sketch with our text on it. Now I want to extrude, right? So we'll extrude down to our surface split reference geometry. I think that has to be showing for us to extrude to it. So I'm going to unhide that, and we're going to say to geometry. And of course, we'll choose that surface as our geometry. Now we have an extrude going right down to our surface where we want it, and I don't need my surface split reference anymore. So what I'm going to do is head over to Surfaces, Delete Face, and delete my surface split reference, which I think I have to select the faces. There we go. So I delete face on that. And now I want to delete face on my extrude, and I can just select all of these faces one by one to delete face. But there is a simpler way. I'm just going to hide all of my existing surfaces right now. We'll come here to the bottom, and I'm going to say delete face, and just choose every face in my model. And then I can hold Shift and deselect these bottom faces here. And we'll say OK. So we deleted faces and we're left with our face split text. OK. Now I can show my surfaces again. And we have surfaces with all these things. So I will go with stitch, and we're going to select all of our faces, or all of our surfaces I should say, and we're going to select stitch to solid. And when we stitch to solid, the remnants here are all split. So I can select all of these faces if I'd like, simply by holding the Shift key and selecting them. And we'll go with part color. And then I can say face color. And I have a beautiful split face. And we are indeed stitched back to solid. So I can create a sketch on this top plane. And there we go. I'll extrude through all. Right? And we are solid. We can do our regular modeling operations like fillets. And they all work. Now there are some cases where stitch to solid has produced something like a hollow surface instead of something that appears solid. And I think I've worked through that, which I'll be talking about in a different video. So stay tuned for that. But this should be our reliable way to split face moving forward and still have a solid afterwards. So hopefully this is helpful. If it was, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.